you got rattling, you are fear for your life, whatever. But the situation could have dealt with differently. And even if somebody come into and they're knocking, bandit are knocking on door. Come on. We ain't have to go through no exam to know that. Bandit ain't knocking on door. A man knocking on your door. You probably don't have a peephole. You have cameras. And I know you have cameras because you say your camera show other bandits on before. Right? Just look on the camera, you see your fear. You and your family, you fear for your life. You shoot as an officer. You shoot. Pow. Oh God. 3 shots? 3? Nah, that is shoot to kill.
Home invasion laws and legal firearms. And when the brutal rapists and criminals come into your homes, I tell you again, load up your matic, light them up, empty the clip.
Stand your ground, a dangerous gamble for Trinidad and Tobago. The tragic shooting of 74-year-old Frank Alan Sandy by a police constable in Tobago is a chilling preview of the dangers that stand-your-ground laws could unleash in Trinidad and Tobago. Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar's push for such legislation, despite mounting evidence from international studies, risks turning every perceived threat into a potential death sentence for ordinary citizens. What stand your ground really means? Stand your ground laws remove the duty to retreat before using deadly force in self-defense, even if escape is possible and safe. In the United States, where these laws are widespread, the data is unequivocal. Stand your ground laws are associated with a dramatic increase in homicides, not a reduction in crime. The data: more death, not more safety. A University of Oxford-led study found that stand-your-ground laws in the US are linked to an additional 700 homicides each year, with no state seeing a reduction in killings after adopting the law. In some states, monthly homicide rates jumped by up to 28%. The Rand Corporation concluded there is moderate evidence that these laws increase homicides, with no rigorous study showing they actually prevent violent crime. In Florida, firearm homicides rose by 32% after the law's introduction. Shockingly, 68% of those killed in Florida stand-your-ground cases were unarmed. These are not just numbers, they represent fathers, mothers, children, and neighbors, lost forever because the law encouraged a shoot-first mentality. Trinidad and Tobago, a nation on edge. Trinidad and Tobago is already grappling with high levels of violent crime, much of it fueled by illegal firearms and gang activity. While recent police efforts have led to a short-term drop in murders, the long-term trend remains deeply troubling. The country's social fabric is strained, trust in law enforcement is fragile, and corruption within the police force is an ongoing concern. Introducing stand-your-ground laws in this environment is like pouring gasoline on a fire. It risks escalating everyday disputes into deadly encounters, empowering those with violent tendencies, not just law-abiding citizens, making it harder for police and courts to hold killers accountable, especially when the victim is unarmed or vulnerable. The human cost: a death sentence on the public. Imagine a society where every argument, every knock at the door, every misunderstanding could end in bloodshed. The elderly, the mentally ill, the confused neighbor, anyone could become a casualty of fear and suspicion. The case of Frank Alan Sandy is a heart-wrenching example. A 74-year-old man shot dead at his neighbor's door, his intentions forever unknown. Prime Minister Persad-Bissessar's insistence that if you don't want a legal firearm, simply do not apply ignores the reality that laws affect everyone, not just those who choose to arm themselves. When the law encourages lethal force, the threshold for violence drops for all. Trinidad and Tobago is not ready. High rates of gun violence and gang activity mean more guns will likely end up in the wrong hands. Weak oversight and corruption in law enforcement undermine the safe and fair application of self-defense laws. A culture of fear and mistrust is fertile ground for vigilantism, not justice. Conclusion: choose life, not fear. Stand your ground laws do not make societies safer, they make them more dangerous, more divided, and more tragic. Trinidad and Tobago deserves better than a policy that puts a target on every citizen's back. This is not about defending homes, it's about defending the very soul of the nation from a descent into chaos and sorrow. The evidence is clear. Stand your ground is not just foolish, it is a death sentence on the public.
Home invasion laws and legal firearms. And when the brutal rapists and criminals come into your homes, I tell you again, load up your matic, light them up, empty the clip.
Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar's statement advocating for stand your ground laws in Trinidad and Tobago dangerously signals a declaration of war among citizens rather than a solution to crime. By endorsing a policy that encourages individuals to use deadly force without the obligation to retreat, she is effectively sanctioning a society where fear breeds violence and every home could become a battleground. The stark reality from other nations. United States, stand your ground laws have led to an estimated 700 additional homicides annually, with some states experiencing up to a 28% rise in monthly homicides after adopting such laws. Instead of deterring criminals, these laws have emboldened individuals to escalate conflicts into fatal encounters, shattering families and communities. The Florida model PM Persad-Bissessar admires has become synonymous with unnecessary bloodshed and racial tensions, not safety. Brazil, with one of the world's highest homicide rates. 32 deaths per 100,000 people, and over 115 firearm deaths daily, Brazil's experience shows that loosening gun restrictions amid rampant violence only fuels chaos. Despite strict gun controls, violence persists, and efforts to arm citizens have been met with fierce debate, highlighting the peril of turning citizens into armed vigilantes in a country struggling with lawlessness. South Africa, high violent crime rates and the proliferation of firearms have created a vicious cycle where citizens arm themselves for protection, only to have those weapons stolen and used in further crimes. Attempts to restrict firearm possession for self-defense have been controversial, underscoring the complexity of balancing rights and safety in a violent society. Kamla's words, a call to arms that tears at the nation's fabric. Her rhetoric, if you're against getting a firearm, it is your choice, do not apply, dismisses the profound consequences for those who do not wish to live in a society where neighbors might shoot first and ask questions never. This policy is not just about self-defense, it is an invitation to a civil war of fear and suspicion, where every knock on the door could mean death. The Prime Minister's language, including phrases like light them up and empty the clip, echoes a dangerous incitement to violence, reminiscent of political slogans that have historically inflamed racial and social divisions in Trinidad and Tobago. In a nation already scarred by crime and political polarization, such words fan the flames of hatred and mistrust. The emotional toll, families torn apart, communities shattered. Imagine mothers trembling as their children walk home, fathers pacing anxiously at night, and elderly neighbors living in constant dread, not from criminals alone, but from the very people sworn to protect them. The promise of stand your ground laws is a promise of more funerals, more shattered homes, and more lives lost to fear-driven violence. Kamla's stance risks turning every citizen into a potential executioner or victim, eroding the trust that binds communities. It is not protection, it is a death sentence disguised as empowerment. Conclusion: a nation at the brink. By pushing stand your ground legislation, Kamla Persad-Bissessar is not safeguarding Trinidad and Tobago, she is setting the stage for a war among its people. The painful lessons from the US, Brazil, and South Africa warn us that such laws ignite more violence, not less. This is a reckless gamble with the lives of every citizen, one that could unravel the very fabric of this diverse and vibrant nation.
Home invasion laws and legal firearms. And when the brutal rapists and criminals come into your homes, I tell you again, load up your matic, light them up, empty the clip.
What is happening?
Yes, Miss Williams, me, Minister Sandy here again. Full name. I am at the hospital this morning. Continuation from the shooting in Monk's George, right? They took him away. I haven't seen him since. I have no information as to what is going on with my father, where he is, what happened, who pronounced him dead, where did he die, nothing. All they came and said he was shot because he was what? Invading somebody's premises. Right? With some knife. I ain't seen none of that. I ain't know nothing. No officer is here to talk to me, no doctor, no nothing.
You came up to the hospital. Where's his body?
I have no idea.
What were you told?
Nothing. Right? Nothing.
They ain't coming out to we?
All a security officer helped me to tell me is that a body came here with the police and they had a John Doe. A John Doe, and they don't know what happened after that. I don't know how come my neighbor who shoot him and telling his superiors that he's a menace is a John Doe all of a sudden. Right? The neighbor couldn't come to me. Right? I don't know what time in the night that happened because when I went out the road after I heard the gunshots, the sun was up. So you can't tell me he didn't see face. You can't say my father don't know bandit. He's 74 years old. You bring up, you shoot him, you bring him here. You ain't let the family member come, nobody. His dog? No information, nothing. A 74-year-old man? No, man. Here people, and this ain't all. This ain't all. He have a family, and we need some kind of information. Come on, that is my father. I'm the only child, and that is my, and I am not leaving here today without some kind of information. No ambulance came and picked him up. The officers that took him away did not speak to me. Nobody. Well, the one who shoot him, they can't bring him to me. Right? Up to now, nobody can tell me nothing. That is unfair. Right. I come here this morning and more dog treatment.
Well, you know what you said?
Doctors can't come up. What are covering up? What are covering up? They're making me feel like they're covering up something.
Well, I don't know. Three checks in the chest. We are leaving it so, you know. While those sleep. He's wide awake. We're not leaving it so. We need justice.
74 years
I have to get justice.
A man walk down in your yard.
I have to get justice.
I want to see the knife because I know all my knives in my house.
Exactly. We need them can't do that. They just throw in the vehicle like a dog.
Home invasion laws and legal firearms. And when the brutal rapists and criminals come into your homes, I tell you again, load up your matic, light them up,